Well, hello there, and welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. As always, we have a lot to talk about today. We're gonna, obviously, we're gonna start off with the news. As you guys, if you are familiar with the show, that's how we usually do things. We're gonna talk about all the stuff that's going on in Hollywood today. There is a new potential movie where producer Jerry Bruckheimer and Joseph Kosinski, the director, might be coming back together again. You know, the duo that brought you Top Gun Maverick and will soon bring you F1. They might be coming back together for another potential blockbuster, this time about a UFO conspiracy. So we're going to get into that. We have to talk about Daredevil Born Again. Got a new release schedule, some more details about, why the Marvel shows were originally canceled by Netflix, and then, where potentially we're going to go with other characters from the Defenders series outside of Daredevil, maybe in the MCU. So we had to talk about that, but obviously we are here for DC, so we have to talk about Aaron Pierre and what he recently said about the Lantern show that he is working on right now. Creature Commandos, the season 2, is it getting fast tracked? We have to get into that as well. The creator of the show had something to say about that as well. And then, of course, the big story on the thumbnail and what you probably clicked here to see, we do have to get into why Daniel Craig might have just dropped out of the Sergeant Rock movie. So to do that and so much more, as always, let's hit that news intro and get the show started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see corns.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow! Wow!
All right, well, it's time to get into the news. I'm, of course, if you weren't watching earlier, I'm Dan. If you are new, of course, then now you know who I am. But if you are here, and you always are here, then welcome on in. And John, how are you doing today? Let's talk about the news. You are muted.
I fucking unmuted. Like, it didn't. Sometimes this fucking site just really pisses me off because it's muted for the video, but then it unmutes by itself. It should be unmuting by itself, but then it doesn't. So, tisk tisk. Anyway, no, none of that. I'm in a gassy, gross mood. You don't want to see me try to be sexy
you
right
know what?
now. You don't want to see. I'm in a gross mood. I'm like, I like have a little bit of heartburn right now. Not gonna lie, I probably need to go.
Interesting. Well, and on that note, we're gonna get on to talking about the news. I mentioned earlier that there's a new UFO conspiracy thriller that is basically ignited a bidding war in Hollywood. So, if you might remember, Jerry Bruckheimer, producer Jerry Bruckheimer, who's one of the most famous and successful producers in the history of Hollywood. He's brought to us movies like the Bad Boys franchise, like Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. He used to work a lot with Disney. I think he was the producer behind Con Air, if I remember correctly. But in more recent years, National Treasure, those ones. Yep. And then, of course, in the time that he has since he has left Disney, and even before, he's worked with a lot of other studios. He's the producer behind the Top Gun franchise for Paramount. And then he's also produced the new F1 movie starring Brad Pitt. So, very familiar with working with big actors, whether it's Johnny Depp or, Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt. So, of course, the common thread between Top Gun Maverick and F1 is the director Joseph Kosinski, who also worked, by the way, fun fact, with Tom Cruise on that sci-fi movie Oblivion, which was really cool, and they did a lot of crazy work with new technology that even to this day they don't necessarily use. But Joseph Kosinski is known for just being at the cutting edge of filmmaking. He's one of the best directors going right now, and as you can see on the headline here, the producer Bruckheimer and of course the Kosinski are looking to get back in the business together, basically working on a new US UFO conspiracy thriller. Now there are a lot of
hot off the
studios.
news of Steven Spielberg's UFO movie, which is coming out next year. So a lot of
And
UFO stuff.
A lot of UFO. So now, here's the thing, right? Like recently, all the UFO talk has kind of gone mainstream because of all the congressional hearings and the government releasing documents, and then there's like a real department that investigates this stuff for the Navy. Stuff like this it's not like that's new, because when they were making Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the real life doctor that movie was based on, part of his work back in the day with Project Blue Book was to investigate UFO activity in the 60s and stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff that were like, okay, well, that's just different kinds of things that people are not as used to. Like the recent thing with looking up in the sky and seeing a lot of drones in New Jersey, half the time people were probably not even seeing drones, they were just seeing planes. And New Jersey especially North Jersey has a lot of airports, like Newark Airport, and obviously traffic coming in for JFK and LaGuardia and stuff. So when you see a line of planes coming into land, if you're not used to looking up at the sky and you're like, whoa, lights, and like depending on the angle you're looking at it, it might look like a big ass UFO to you when it's really just a plane or maybe just a drone. So UFOs are in the mainstream firmly, and it looks like, while Steven Spielberg has been working on his UFO project for a couple of years, this is a more recent development, John. I want to go in and maybe read a little bit of this, and then I want to get your reaction to this based on what we see here. So it says here, of course, this is coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter. So a movie project reuniting Jerry Bruckheimer and Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Kosinski is spurring interest that is out of this world. A solar system's worth of companies are vying for the package that also includes a scribe, basically screenwriter Zach Balin, who also has written Will Smith's King Richard, Creed 3, and then last year he wrote Jude Law's white supremacist thriller The Order. So right now the studios that are in the bidding war include Amazon, Apple, Lionsgate, Paramount, of course, the Top Gun Maverick franchise, and Warner Brothers. I think Oblivion might have been either a Paramount or Warner Brothers picture. Of course, Tom Cruise right now is working on the Warner Brothers lot. These are among the studios that want in on the action, with sources saying that the bidding is escalating quickly and aggressively, John. So based on what you see here, what I just read out to you, where do you see this going? Which of these studios do you think has the best chance? Of course, Joseph Kosinski recently, got into business with Apple with the F1 movie. So that's Apple and is being distributed by Warner Brothers. It's produced by Apple. It's an Apple original film, but it's a Warner Brothers distributed film. And like I mentioned, Jerry Bruckheimer has been working with Paramount for the Top Gun franchise, which is developing another sequel to Top Gun Maverick. So where do you see this movie going? Do you like the idea of a UFO conspiracy thriller? And why do you think maybe Joseph Kosinski is a great fit for this?
If it's a conspiracy thing, it's kind of like espionage. I can't imagine having it like a huge fucking budget or anything like that, unless it's like full on Independence Day kind of shit. So I can't imagine it like having like a huge fucking budget or something like that. But even then, if I were to take a guess, I mean, Paramount or Apple seems the most likely, because those are the ones he's worked with. And Apple has money to burn. Paramount, they're a mess right now, but like maybe they can, deliver something that they're interested in. But yeah, it just goes to show how Joseph Kosinski is now this super hot fucking name. And Disney are shooting themselves in the foot because of Tron Ares. I'm still like, it doesn't like piss me off. It's just like, okay, guy, like I just like imagine Disney like, okay, so this guy that did this Tron sequel for us fucking 14 years ago. All right, so he's a pretty hot name right now, and he just created one of the biggest money printing machines known as Top Gun Maverick, and he's been doing some great hits and shit. Yeah, let's not have him back to direct. Let's get the guy who did Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and Pirates 5. Yeah, let's get that guy to fucking direct this movie. And who do we have as our star? Let's not get like Garrett Hedlund back or Olivia Wilde. No. Let's get the cult leader who just starred in one of the biggest bombs in recent memory. Yeah, let's get that guy. And well, we have to have one good decision, and we can't get Daft Punk again because they're retired. So, throw 9 Inch Nails in there. Yeah, sure. That's our fucking Tron sequel. Like, just like this dude created one of the most profitable movies in the last 10 years. And this dude has been wanting to make a sequel to, he's been wanting to make Tron 3 for like a decade. And then finally, when he's like, all right, fine, I'm going to just do my own shit. They're like, oh, now we're interested to, breed this cash cow. And we're going to get some nobody named director who sucks to fucking do it. It's just like.
Well, look, Tron Ares aside, I will say this: Joseph Kosinski is very picky about what he wants to do, and like you said, he wanted to do a Tron sequel. Be that as it may, with F1 and now with this movie, I think
I'm stoked for his career now.
Yeah, like as far as the idea behind the movie, just the core premise, I'm all in. Like I loved the X-Files. Growing up, I watched all the UFO shows and documentaries. I mean, I tend to land more on the like if there were a real thing, there would be more evidence of it kind of thing. And, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist on that side anymore, but I firmly enjoy that kind of content. I, love all the sci-fi movies, all the Steven Spielberg, like Close Encounters, E.T. I've seen like the Bollywood version of E.T., which is also pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, Manos time asking in the movie, will they be called UFOs or UAPs? I think the Navy even has another, acronym for them. UAPs, I think, is unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is basically UFOs, except it doesn't carry the same stigma, I suppose. But UFOs, by the way, Hosea asking a question: will you guys do an Invincible mid-season review? John, are you watching Invincibles, the new season, or
no?
Or are you going to be when it comes out?
I'm behind. I still need to watch the second half of season 2, and it's not like I don't want to watch the show. It's just like I haven't had the like push to it. Maybe when Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is done, I'll finally give it a watch. But I'm just worried because some people said that the second half of season 2 was not very good. So I've been like kind of worried to watch it as well. No, I know people care about Tron. It's just like why get, I think his name is Joachim Roning or something like that. He's like Swedish. It's like this dude has like 2 terrible movies he's made for Disney under his belt, 2 terrible sequels, I might add, and you get Jared fucking Leto. Like, really, you get Morbin time to star in your movie, the guy who's, again, a literal cult leader, treats women and his co-stars like complete shit, and is, starred in one of the biggest bombs in recent memory.
He's still an Oscar-winning actor, so I don't know. But I hear what the reservations are there. We haven't seen any trailers from that movie yet, though, right? So we don't really know what it's gonna look like. But what's up, indeed, Fiona? Moderator Fiona, that is. And then Ron saying, from what I've seen, there aren't a lot of alien conspiracy movies lately in Hollywood. This sounds like a fresh, interesting idea. Exactly, especially when you think about Joseph Kosinski doing one. The same guy who did Top Gun Maverick, he's a director who does good action, but also he does great sci-fi. So, I mentioned Oblivion. He's doing F1, which is great action, not sci-fi necessarily, but it's great.
Tron
action.
Legacy. That was
Tron
sci-fi.
Legacy. Yeah, Tron Legacy, which that movie looked amazing when it came out. It still holds up to this day.
It's
a little bit of like the de-aging on the Jeff Bridges was a little off.
It's a little wonky, but that's forgivable. That's forgivable.
Yeah,
the rest of the movie is pretty.
Other than that, the movie is great. And then just of course Top Gun Maverick. You can't go wrong with getting the director who did that. And Jerry Bruckheimer and Kosinski. This would be the 3rd movie at least collaborating together. I forget who. I don't know. I don't remember. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm not 100% sure if Bruckheimer produced Oblivion, which was the other Kosinski movie in recent times. So yeah, I mean, Hosea, I'm gonna see if I can catch up with the show, and then maybe we'll do a review. The next big Amazon show that I'm looking forward to reviewing is Reacher. I just finished season 2 of Night Agent recently, and now I'm watching The Recruit season 2. Obviously watching Severance, which drops its next episode tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm continuing to watch that. That looks just it's the mystery spinning is continuing, but I hope that it goes somewhere. But anyway, Top Gun Maverick director, F1 director Joseph Kosinski, and Jerry Bruckheimer, they're going to be working together, hopefully again on a UFO conspiracy thriller. Let us know what you guys think about that idea. Are you looking forward to it? Is that something that you would like to see? And then which studio do you think is going to land the package? Is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be Apple that Joseph Kosinski is making F1 with? Is it going to be Warner Brothers? Is it going to be Paramount, where Jerry Bruckheimer has been working on the Top Gun franchise? Let us know down below what you think about that. But in the meantime, we have to talk about another story, John. Before the show started, you and I were talking about, which studios have got money to burn. And then I was like, you know what, John? Ironically enough, I know of an article that we're going to be talking about today on the show where we will know exactly which studio has the most money to burn, because IndieWire put this out. This is from earlier today. And they were basically talking about in the article how much, as it says in the headline, every big studio is going to be spending on content in 2025. Now, this isn't like, what they're spending on their parks or like their iPhones or whatever, like,
Right.
or Amazon.com. This is about what these companies and studios are doing on their, television and film productions. This includes sports deals, like, for the NFL, NBA, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's all about content that's going to go to screen. So like whether it's a small screen or the big screen in theaters. So now, of course, the list is extensive, but we're going to get into it. They say here at the very top, Netflix spends far more on direct-to-consumer content than anyone else, which means like, something that you're watching on streaming that's coming from the studio directly to the audience rather than going on like a broadcast network or something like that. But then when we get into it, Sony Picture is a studio where they have a hard time kind of pinning down how much they're spending, because Sony Pictures is divided up into so many different pieces. Like there's a lot of divisions of Sony Pictures, so it's kind of hard to nail down exactly how much they're spending. Lionsgate, of course, they also have Stars, which is one of their premium networks. It's not as transparent because they're not entirely public. But the list here is in ascending order, meaning like the very bottom, the first name that we're going to read is going to be the one spending the least amount of money. So you look at the list, and the first name that comes up, surprisingly enough, of all these big name studios, Apple is spending the least amount of money. I mean, $7.5 billion is not a lot, but $7.5 billion is still up from 7.3, which they spent in 2024, John. It's a 3% increase, so it's a modest increase. But this combines what Apple is going to be putting out through Apple Films, Apple TV Plus, and then any other content that they're producing, for the screen. Are you surprised that Apple is, at the bottom of this list essentially with $7.5 billion?
I mean, that's the bottom.
That's the bottom. We're going up from here. It's only gonna get
like in
bigger
terms
and
of
bigger.
what they spent. Apple.
What they spend this year, what they're going to be spending this year.
Okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe they are picky. I mean, that makes sense because it's like they are like outside of like Argyle, I can't imagine like any I mean, I guess we don't hear about the really terrible Apple stuff, but like I was saying this, I think yesterday, like Apple, they're like the goats of TV right now. Like their streaming service stuff is like just really good. I think it's just like a real like I mean, it helps that like Apple, Google, and Amazon are the biggest like corporations, like in terms of network, like what they get like daily. They fucking get millions like daily. Like it's crazy because it's like Amazon. Everybody uses fucking Amazon now. Like especially post COVID. Everybody's using Amazon. They don't want to go out anymore, blah, 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 all that shit. Everyone has an iPhone. Well, I mean, I don't, but most people have an iPhone. They have like 80 to 90% of the cell phone market cornered. So Apple, like, constantly, and it only costs like 7 cents to make. I mean, it like, but 5 Chinese people a minute suicide themselves. But
speaking of which,
and then Google, like, of course, Google. I'm surprised Google hasn't gotten into the fucking movie making shit.
Well, I mean,
now.
Google has YouTube though. Like they've got YouTube, and they don't even have to make stuff themselves.
They
like,
did
we're
have
doing
a
it for
streaming
them.
service, but then
we essentially work for Google in a manner of speaking because we're making stuff on YouTube.
That's fair.
They did. You're
it
right,
wouldn't shock
briefly.
me in like the next 10 years for them to like get into the movie game. Yeah. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me, but
it's not a high profit business. Like, the profit margins are not always that good. So I don't know if they would do that. But I mean, for Apple, $7.5 billion, as it says in the article, it's like a rounding error. Like, $7.5 billion, like Apple's got like enough money to literally buy out Disney 5 times over if they really wanted to. So 7.5 billion isn't much, and it goes to show you that this is still early goings for what they considered like their content space. They of course have the MLS rights in the US, actually worldwide for 10 years. If you're a big fan of American soccer, then you've got there too. But Amazon is the next one on the list, John. Amazon comes in with a annual net spend this year of $9.1 billion, which actually is a little down, 2% down from last year when they spent $9.3 billion. Now, interestingly enough, when you read the article, it says that Amazon, which includes, of course, Amazon Studios, Prime Video, and now they also have the MGM Studio, they will actually be spending less on entertainment this year and more on sports because of the new NBA deal that they signed. So the total amount of money that they're spending, which is kind of, it's like they're saying it's a bizarro Warner Brothers Discovery thing, which we will get into later because they are on the list as well. Because of course Warner Brothers does currently have the NBA deal, but that's about to change because of the new deals that are going to kick in. NBC takes over a lot of the stuff that currently TNT and Warner Brothers Discovery have. So are you surprised to see Amazon is still this low on the list? It comes up above Apple. $9.1 billion is not a small chunk of change, but it's actually lower than what they spent last year, 9.3.
Yeah. Isn't it like half the world is like starving to death, and like we're world hunger, like people don't have homes. There's people are like dying every day of like diseases that could be taken care of rather easily. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing to just keep in mind. That's all.
By the way, we have Valak in the show. Hello, Valak. We have Ron in the sorry, I'm going to say we have Valak in the chat. We have Ron in the chat. We've got Antonio here. Manos Time. Kevin. Hunter Iggy. I feel like a bunch of Hallmark style films end up on there, says Fiona, on Amazon. They do, but also Amazon has a lot more than that, obviously. Like, they're big on like all the spy thriller genre stuff, which Netflix is trying to catch up with, I suppose, with The Recruit and Night Agent. But you got like Reacher, you have Alex Cross. They had that Michael B. Jordan movie from the same author like a few years ago. The Boys, John and I are not big fans of The Boys. It's
you know what it is? It's like that it's like that meme with Robert Pattinson and that guy. I think it's from Good Time, where he's like, "The boys, you act like you're better than me," and Robert Pattinson as the Tick, "I am better than you." So if we're talking about superhero stuff that was on Amazon, the Tick was better. I would say the Tick, Invincible, than the Boys. Like it's not even close.
I mean, the Boys is, to me, it's sometimes I don't like violence and gore for the sake of it, and I feel like sometimes while they have a lot of political commentary, it's not just
but
my
it doesn't
flavor
come off as
content.
like it just comes off as not saying anything. It comes off as saying it without saying it, it just like, hey, look, we have this character that's like this guy that everybody hates, but like you don't have like anything like meaningful to say about that. It's like, look, Homelander is a fucking horrible psychopath, and it's like, okay, cool, what are you trying to say with that? Well, he's crazy. Look, superheroes, if they exist, would be crazy. It's just like, no, that's just like you read Friedrich Nietzsche once and you're like, nihilism, that's the show. And it's like, as well as like not get it. Like, don't get me wrong, Garth Ennis, he has hits and misses, and The Boys comic book, from what I've heard, is kind of a miss from him. But even then, it still has his quality of writing and not, the guy who made Supernatural and all that shit. So I don't know. It's just like, it's just one of those shows where it's like, on the surface, it's kind of fun, but like it's so hollow and it's so empty that it's just like, I can't, like, once I looked behind the curtain, I'm like, I just can't watch this show anymore. It's just,
to me, this is the
so
thing about
far up its own ass.
I'll put it very simply. For me, The Boys, the reason why it doesn't work for me as well as maybe it should, or I guess could, any show that grounds itself in the politics of the moment, it's always going to age badly. It only works for maybe the week or the month when it's relevant, and then
exactly very dated.
It becomes dated very quickly, because a lot of times those ideas, like political ideas, are very like in the moment and temporary and evolve quickly and change. It's like they change with the wind. so that's why I prefer like sci-fi, where a lot of the you know, the topics and ideas they explore, or even like Superman, right? Like the new movie, the ideas it's going to explore are much more timeless. So I would prefer that than maybe watching,
because it's very general.
It's very it's
Sci-fi is
more,
very general. It's like, as many people have
Yeah.
said, a great quote I remember reading somewhere. Sci-fi is something that takes place in the future, but is a commentary on the present. But the way it works, it hides it very well. And for the most part, like and I'm talking about really good shows like Star Trek, Expanse, Lost in Space, shit like that, where it's like really good,
I mean,
well done sci-fi, and it's like it has for the most part very good writers that try to like bob and weave like all the dated stuff, but like having it like at its core, like something that unfortunately, due to the fallacy of human beings, will always be there. Like it kind of reminds me of like the ending of Terminator 3 a little bit. I know a lot of people hate that ending because it's like, well, Judgment Day is inevitable. What's the fucking point? It's like, no, Judgment Day is inevitable, not because it's like, yes, it is a bullshit writing tactic, but at the same time, it is always within ourselves that we are going to destroy ourselves. Like that's no matter what we do, no matter how we save ourselves, it is in our nature to destroy ourselves. So anyway, enough with the philosophical stuff. Let's move on to this.
By the way, to anybody looking for a good travel show on Amazon, find yourself the Grand Tour, a fantastic travel show about 3 guys who ride exotic cars all over the world and then talk about them. Which I'm sure a lot of you guys are fans of that show. Or if you're not, I mean, one of you guys mentioned Jeremy Clarkson the other day, so. Or Clarkson's Farms, right? Like that's coming back soon. But anyway, Fox is next up on the list, and they're going to be spending an estimated $9.2 billion in content. Of course, a lot of the stuff that Fox sold to Disney is now part of Disney, like the X-Men and all the other franchises, Avatar. But Fox still has a big presence in the sports world, especially in the news world as well. So we recently got the news that this year's Super Bowl set a new record with 127.7 million views, and I think it was even higher. It was like 180 or something like that, or 160. I forget the exact number when you included like the streaming numbers, because this was just the viewers that watched it on like television. They made over $800 million in ad sales from the Super Bowl, so they're reinvesting a lot of that in content this year. $9.2 billion. That's a big number. Not that much different from the 9.1 at Amazon, but Fox is still spending a good amount of money. Now, when you get to the next one on the list, Paramount Global, which is currently buried under a pile of high-profile lawsuits about their new merger and the stuff that's going on with the president, but nonetheless, they're still set to spend $15.2 billion this year. It's a big leap up from what we have seen so far with Apple, Amazon, and Fox. John, are you surprised that Paramount Global, going into the big merger with Skydance, is still set to spend $15.2 billion on content?
No, I'll just say, so we don't get into another philosophical discussion, I'm just going to say it's interesting. It's interesting, and that's all I'll say.
I mean, of course, they have to spend the money to like fund all the content that's going on their streaming service, Paramount Plus. You've got Pluto, which is owned by Paramount. Like Fox has Tubi, Paramount has Pluto, and of course they still have all their sports, like the NFL deal that they have. So they spend a lot of money on that. Netflix then is next on the list. They're going to be spending roughly $18 billion. 18.6 billion is, to be more exact, which is higher than the $16.2 billion they spent last year. So now we're getting closer and closer to like the $20 billion mark. Are you surprised to see Netflix is going to be spending that much money? I mean, I feel like they've been doing that at least as much, if not more, for quite a long time now, considering the amount of content that they put out there. They've got over 300 million subscribers now worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's just, I find it funny because these guys are the biggest in debt, yet they're still spending the most amount of money. So it's like, yeah, crazy.
It's also like on a per subscriber basis, that's a pretty reasonable number compared to
a lot of numbers I don't
a little
know
bit later.
Specifically. So I'm sure
it's reasonable, like on a per subscriber basis compared to what Netflix and not Netflix, what Disney and Warner Brothers are going to be spending, which we will get into in a second. But of course, Netflix just got the rights to Monday Night Raw from the WWE. There's another Squid Game season coming out. Stranger Things is about to have its final season. So, They've got a lot of things on the horizon. Next up on the list is Warner Brothers Discovery. They plan to spend $19.5 billion this year, which is the exact same as what they spent last year on content. This, of course, includes what is left over on their NBA deal, which is going to be expiring soon. It includes the Olympics, which they carry internationally. In the US, of course, NBC has the Olympics, but internationally, Warner Brothers Discovery has the rights. And then, 2025 is an off year for the games, but they will be prepping for the Winter Olympics in Milan early next year. I think in February of 2026. So yeah, I mean, 19.5 billion. Does that surprise you for a company that isn't as much debt that they do have that big of a spend this year, considering all the networks they have, all the sports? I mean, and obviously the movie studios between Warner Brothers, they have New Line Cinema and DC Studios. Still higher than even Netflix, John. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those cases where it's like, I mean, all these guys, yes, but like spend money to make money. I mean, these guys are investing a lot into a lot of different stuff. So, I mean, it's obvious because we're the DC channel, so now technically, so DC stuff is what they're investing a lot of time in right now. I know they have other things, but it seems like that, and then they just I don't know what else like made, and then and the Harry Potter stuff as well. So
the Harry Potter franchise, the Lord of the Rings movies that they're developing now. It's
there's a lot. They have a lot of big expensive franchises under their belt.
Warner Brothers also produces the Ted Lasso show. Like there's a lot of iconic sitcoms that we know which are produced by Warner Brothers. I mean, yes, it's on Apple, Ted Lasso, but it's actually made by Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers Television. So yeah, it makes, I mean, and obviously there are also, the Lantern show at HBO, anything else, basically anything HBO related, all is under Warner Brothers Discovery. So you have a lot of that. The next season of The House of the Dragon, there's another spin-off of Game of Thrones coming out soon. So, but of course, then we have Disney. Disney coming in pretty much at the top of the list. They've got so many streaming services with Disney Plus. They've got Hulu. They've got ESPN Plus. Of course, they've got all the ABC family of networks. They've got a big, wide, diversified portfolio of media outlets, and of course, all the studios: Walt Disney Pictures. You have Pixar. You have Marvel Studios. You have Lucasfilm, and even more than that. I think they have another studio that they Buena Vista Pictures, which is where they release all the more adult, non-family friendly Disney movies under. So they're set to spend $23 billion, John, which is actually it's 23.4 billion. And that's pretty much the same budget that they had last year. So again, kind of they're running it back. It's a little bit less than what Disney executives expected to spend this year, but they did get rid of the Venue streaming service, which is going to combine like all the sports properties between Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox. So I guess they didn't have to account for the money that was going to go into that. So it is a little less than what they thought they were going to spend, but $23 billion is still a pretty big number.
Yeah, too much, you would say. Too much.
Too much. But hey, you know what? They're not actually at the very top of the list, because NBC Universal, which of course includes Sky, for our British friends, the Sky is probably like the biggest content creator, or one of the biggest content creators in the UK. And I used to have all the Sky networks, including Sky Sports, Sky News, the Sky Cinema, like Sky Box Office, all of those networks. And they have a lot of series and a lot of movies that they produce. And of course, they were bought out by NBC Universal a few years ago. And NBC Universal is owned by Comcast, so they've got deep pockets, they've got money to throw around, and it looks like they have been throwing it around, because not only do they have the Olympics and they're doing it bigger and bigger every year. I can speak to that well, because I actually worked with NBC on a few Olympics myself. So, they're putting in a lot of resources with Peacock, the streaming service. We're going to get into more Peacock news later, because we know now when Wicked is coming to streaming on Peacock soon. Of course, they have the new How to Train Your Dragon live action movie coming out with DreamWorks. You have another Wicked sequel coming out this year. So 27
Wicked for good.
$27.1 billion, which is what they're looking to spend this year. Despite the fact that that's the biggest number by a few $billion on the list, it's still down from $27.5 billion they spent last year. But I'm not surprised that they're at the top of the list because they just spent billions of dollars to get that new NBA rights deal. And of course, they also just spun off MSNBC, CNBC, USA Network, Oxygen E, and Sci-Fi, as well as the Golf Channel. So all of those linear networks, they're spinning off because they're like, they're losing money at this point because nobody watches, TV shows anymore on actual regular TV. It's all streaming. So they still have a partial ownership of Fandango. I think they're the controlling owners of Fandango, Rotten Tomatoes, where Warner Brothers owns a minority stake, and then NBC Universal owns, like, I think, a controlling stake. And then Golf Now, Sports Engine, which if you're a fan of sports statistics, you can go there. NBC Universal is just a really, really big company. Not to mention, they also have, of course, the NBC Broadcast Network. They have the Universal Pictures. You have DreamWorks, I just mentioned. Illumination with all the Despicable Me and Minions movies we've got coming out. More on the horizon. Focus Features, of course, we know Focus Features has had quite a few Oscar nominees in recent years. Peacock, I mentioned, the streaming service. Jurassic World Rebirth is a big Universal picture coming out. Fast and Furious has a couple of more movies in development right now. Wicked for Good. So when you add up all the pieces, it makes sense they're at the top of the list, John. But I mean, are you surprised that they're actually spending more than even Disney at this point in time?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, when you look at all their stuff, I'm like, that's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We're so unaware of like the little bits and pieces that they do own that it's like, oh yeah, shit, no shit. All right, fuck, they own a lot of shit. Like, goddamn, that makes sense. So it's like, oh, you think Disney would be? No, it's like because they have like 100 other monopolies. What's that anyway? But yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, when you see all the stuff listed, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Also, Manos Time saying, I find it weird that Sony isn't on the list, knowing how big they are in movies and TV shows. That's true, because they did mention at the top of this article that it's kind of hard for them to pin down the total content spend for Sony, because Sony has a lot of divisions, right? They're part of a big tech company. So the Sony, which is like based out of Japan, I believe, right? And so Sony Pictures and that Sony Television, which they include things like the For All Mankind is produced by Sony. There's a number of other big TV series that Sony produces, so they have a big presence. But for some reason, they weren't able to kind of quite put the numbers together. I have a feeling if they were, Sony will probably be somewhere near the top of the list, but not at the very top. But I do get your concern there, Manos Time. Wicked, it's Wickedy Whack. That's probably like the unofficial sequel, but the one we are getting officially is Wicked for Good, which, like John said, sounds like the name of a charity. What's
that was
not
originally
a charity?
Liz's joke. I can't take credit for that.
That's true.
So.
Very true. That's Liz.
Unlike Amy Schumer, we credit the jokes we steal.
We credit the jokes. But you know what? Giving credit to the man himself, Denis Villeneuve, one of the best directors working in Hollywood today, who continues to get snubbed at the Oscars. But you know what? That doesn't drive down his passion for the Dune franchise any little bit, at least, because when you talk about Dune Messiah, the third and final movie that he's going to be doing in the franchise, I mean, he said that he's happy to, kind of hand off the reins after this third movie, but he's very much, involved. And now he's actually started working on Dune 3 earlier than it was planned, because I remember talking about it not just a few weeks ago. I think it wasn't even that long ago that we were talking about how the Batman 2 is probably going to be able to get Greg Fraser back because he's not working on Dune, which has kind of had pushed back his production timeline. But apparently that has all changed now, because Dune 2 is set to go into production this summer. And recently he was talking to Collider, Denis Villeneuve, and this is from Cinema Blend, quoting him from that Collider interview, talking about how he was really moved, and he explaining the reason for why he's working on Dune 3 earlier than planned. So let me kind of go through this a little bit. He said, Chani's heart is broken, and it's the beginning of the Holy War, and that's where we left. So in a way, I'd say it's quite similar. I was expecting to do something else before, but frankly, that's the inspiration that came to my mind as I took a break this summer and was going back and finishing the story. And then he continued on to say, I was really moved by the way part 2 was received and by cinephiles around the world, and I felt an appetite and a desire to see more and a responsibility to finish that story. So of course, it seems like Denis Villeneuve was fast tracking, the development of the third Dune movie, and we know now that from that report that was in Deadline a few days ago that Dune Messiah is aiming to start filming this summer. John, are you surprised that unlike Matt Reeves, who's kind of like taking his time, even though he's now given himself a deadline, sort of, to get into
Yeah.
production by the end of the year. That Denis Villeneuve, on the other hand, is like, you know what?
He's like,
Let's
nah,
do this.
fuck that shit.
Let's
These
do this."
fucking film losers like my shit. Well, gotta do another one. Gotta do another one. Let's fucking go. So yeah, you know what? If he wants to do it, and he's like, okay, I wasn't going to, but now seeing how much love that
Right.
it's gotten, I'm gonna, I think that would be really great. I think, like, in terms of what Manos is saying, I think Gareth Edwards, I think it would be good if they kept the same writer.
Right.
I don't know who writes it. I don't think Denis Villeneuve writes it.
I'm not sure either.
not sure.
Actually, I don't know who
But-
wrote the Dune movie. Somebody let us know in the chat.
But get the same writer, and make sure they're working with John Spates. Okay, that's who I thought it was. John Spates is one of the writers. Denis Villeneuve and Eric Roth wrote the screenplay together, and then Dune Part 2, it was just Denis Villeneuve and John Spates. So I would say, as long as they're writing it, that would be good. I think that would be great to stick with Sam, because I think Gareth Edwards could do a good job. But obviously we'll see. But I think it's really cool that he's doing this. Villeneuve is doing this because he's like, damn, like, people really loved it. Well, I guess I got to give the people what they want. And so I think that's really awesome. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm excited to see just how soon we get this movie. Does it get moved up, or he's just buying himself more time for production by going on it a little sooner than what we were expecting? So hopefully we'll get that movie soon, and then hopefully it'll be as good as the first two. I personally, I still didn't enjoy the movies as a lot of people did, but I know it's got a big following. Speaking of big followings, though, Masters of the Universe movie, it's coming out soon. We've been talking about it each and every day, seems like. Yesterday we were talking about that we've got the Ram Man joining the cast now, but we missed a couple of other names, because it's not just that one character that they've found an actor for. They've now also added, Shashir Zamata as Susie. And we talked about yesterday John Shuzong as Ram Man, and then Christian Wunipola as Hussein. So we've got 3 new actors who have joined this film. Of course, this movie is being directed by the same director, I think something Knight. Why am I forgetting? Somebody tell me. Is it the one he directed the Bumblebee movie? Trevor Knight or Travis Knight?
Travis Knight.
Travis Knight. So I'm like, Travis Knight is a good director. And despite the fact that those photos that weren't the most convincing, the cast that they've got is amazing. So, I mean, John, are you excited to see that they've been adding more of these characters?
Nope.
But also, they're keeping the character names. They're not like downplaying it, like, oh, we're gonna be realistic about this, and call her Wanda instead of the Scarlet Witch, for example. They're gonna call him Ram Man, Jean Shu Zong's character.
I mean, I like Travis Knight as a director. It's just like, I feel like either he's at the mercy of a studio, or at the mercy of a writer who doesn't care about the source material. I don't know who's writing it, but it just feels off to me. And like, this guy has directed some great movies. Like, I mean, he did my favorite animated movie of all time is Paranorman. Amazing movie. He did Kubo and the Two Strings, great movie. And in terms of live action stuff, I think Bumblebee was great. And that's awesome, but it just, I don't know. Like, I've liked every single one of his movies. I've liked. So, whether it was producing or directing, whatever it was, I've liked everything. So it's just like, this is just,
it's going to be interesting. They've got a all-star cast, so let's see where the movie goes. Maybe it's going to turn out to be a lot better than what we expect. Maybe just the Earth parts are a very small part of the movie. So I'm willing to give it time. Let's see what the first trailer looks like. But it's good to see that they're continuing to add more characters from the show that a lot of people were just big fans of. And of course, they're gonna try to sell all the toys. We just hope that the character designs will line up with what we expect from
So
the animated show.
I did want to say that. Sorry, he didn't direct
Yeah.
Paranorman; he only produced it. But Chris Butler, who did direct it, is writing He-Man. So it's like, what are you doing, my guy? He directed and wrote Paranorman and Missing Link, both great, and he wrote Kubo and the Two Strings, and they're also doing Wildwood together. And it's like, what the fuck is like? Paranorman is one of it's I could go into it, but it would take too much time. So we're not. I love the Iron Giant. It's the best Superman story we've ever gotten. It's one of the greatest animated movies we've ever gotten. However, I prefer Paranorman, but that's just me. But it's just like
Well, look, the Masters of the Universe movie is still pretty early going. Let's see where the movie goes. Hopefully, we'll get some artwork and
maybe they
maybe a
could pull
trailer
up
in the
Captain
next
America: Brave New World and just like do a month of reshoots and completely change the movie. So
we'll have to see. But you know what movie's not doing reshoots? Mickey 17. It actually already had a premiere. That's where we got those Robin Pattinson quotes recently about Batman and, you know, when he expects to go into production and how he's really excited because he knows the story for the movie. But today, I believe it was, Mickey 17 debuted on Rotten Tomatoes. It's to a score that was, when it first was on put on Rotten Tomatoes, it had an 87% based on 30 reviews, which is pretty good. Now, if I open it up right as of right now, it's got an 88%, so it's gone up 1%, and it's gotten 33 reviews, so 3 more reviews than when it first debuted. But so far, that's a pretty good number, John. 88% of those 33 reviews were positive. Like, you look at some of the ones here. Empire Magazine's Helen O'Hara said, like Mickey himself, it's goofy and a little inconsistent, but it's also funny, thoughtful, and more plausible than we might like. A charming space oddity for these unusual times. And then Christy Puchko from Mashable saying Robert Pattinson brings jackass appeal to Mickey 17. And then if you keep going here for a second, I'm going to skip a couple. Let's see. I know we're not going to do the IGN one. But yeah, maybe let's do the South China Morning Post. James Mottram saying a science fiction parable or parable? I don't know. Parable. A science fiction parable, one that fits neatly alongside Bong's earlier works, Snowpiercer, Okja. Mickey 17 is a darkly funny look at humankind's desire to conquer at any cost. So overall, 88%, John, that's a pretty good number. What are your thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes score? Do you think it's going to continue to climb, or
I hope so.
Going to stay where it is pretty much? Because I mean, 88% is pretty high. And
like,
I can imagine
hope it goes
maybe
maybe a little bit higher, maybe like it stays in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. I was reading a lot of mixed things, so I was worried. And this is the critics, so maybe the audiences will hate it. I don't know. Because I mean, critics hated Brave New World, but the audiences loved it, so who knows? I saw this trailer, I saw this premise, I saw everything about this movie, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. So that brings in some hope. I'm stoked. It's just fucking adorable. Love it. It's great. And
I mean, there's a new clip out from this movie that looks pretty sweet.
I saw
too.
the clip. Yeah,
it looks amazing. It's kind of a little bit of what we have seen in the trailers, but they're giving us a more closer look at it. And then also what I saw was Hideo Kojima posted, who's famous in the gaming world. He posted the new 4DX poster for the movie, which looks amazing. Clearly, you're getting. I don't know if I've counted them all, but it looks like that's at least half of the 17 Mickeys we're gonna get in this movie in the poster. So it looks nice. I am enjoying it so far. I mean, what are your thoughts on all the marketing so far for the movie? Do you think this is a good sign?
Awesome. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I love it. Can't wait for this movie.
Initial projections for opening weekend were like 19 million, but I mean, that's pretty much what I think most people thought this would be. I don't think anybody thought this movie was going to open to 50, $100 million. Maybe it's on the lower end a little bit. Maybe they would have preferred it closer to 50 million considering the budget for the movie, but it's the kind of movie that I can imagine if people love it, then it will continue to do well in the weeks following the premiere. So hopefully the word of mouth will help it. But the watcher in the chat now saying the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is untrustworthy. Thank the audience.
No, I know.
Reviews have it tomorrow. Oh yeah. The thing about the Rotten Tomatoes audience score now is
Rotten Tomatoes is bullshit, but like I'm just saying in terms of like
they don't
what
even
we
have an audience score right now, but like when they do, now you have to actually prove that you went to see the movie. So you have to tie
You
it
have
into
to
your
get it through
Fandango
Fandango,
account.
which is
So
fucking
it's better
stupid.
than no, I think it's better than what it used to be when you could just randomly go in and be like, yeah, I saw the movie, and then believe me, I did. So I prefer
Yeah,
that
but
they
who's
verify
fucking
it
ordering
now.
tickets through Fandango? Like, I don't.
But no, but
So
Fandango, you can connect your like AMC and Cinemark, Regal accounts into Fandango. So like it will bring your history in, and you don't have to buy tickets on Fandango. But anyway, I mean, look, the movie looks great so far. The poster is looking amazing. The new clip looks awesome. The premiere was great. So, for a movie from a filmmaker who's won several Oscars already, and Robert Pattinson, who's probably one of the best actors in the business right now, I just want to see this movie succeed, and hopefully it's a great film. Mark Ruffalo also in this, Toni Collette, so Stephen Yeun, a talented cast. But with that,
speaking
John,
of
we have to move
Invincible.
on. Speaking of Invincible, and speaking of talented cast, of course, Daredevil Born Again is set to release in just a couple of weeks' time. March 4th, we now know the whole release schedule, because recently we found out that it's going to debut with 2 episodes, so episodes 1 and 2, with episode 1 having a runtime, I believe,
Where's this coming from, Dan? What's pop news?
I don't know what pop news is, but I'll tell you this. This isn't the only outlet. Pop News isn't the only one who was talking about this. This comes from a more trusted source. I traced it down. So this is reliable information.
Caleb, less navel gazing.
Yes, we'll see just how much navel gazing or lack thereof we'll get in the show. But you know how your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is doing like batched episodes, so you're getting like 3 a week? After they did a 2-episode premiere, and then they've been dropping 3 every week. So we're gonna get another 3 episodes. Actually, no, we're gonna get 2 episodes tomorrow, like the finale, 9 and 10. So we're gonna review that, but which we'll get into on Friday when Liz is on for MCU Weekly. But Daredevil Born Again, doing something that not a lot of live action shows on Disney Plus do. Obviously, a 2-episode premiere. We have seen that from Hawkeye. We have seen it from a few other Marvel shows. We know that the episodes are going to be like 58 minutes and 47 minutes for episodes 1 and 2. But now you can see here on the screen, after the 2-episode premiere, they're going to do an episode 3 on March 11th, then episode 4 on March 18th. Seems perfectly fine. But then, not exactly halfway through the season, but pretty much like in the middle of the season, March 25th, they're going to drop us episodes 5 and 6. There's, I believe, 8 episodes in the season. 9. So 9 episodes. So 2/3 of the way into the season, we're getting another double episode. Now, the closest thing I could think of is like, how when TV shows used to have 22 episodes and they had like a mid-season break, what you would often get. There were good times. I missed those times, but like back then, what you would sometimes get is a multi-parter, like a mid-season finale 2-parter, or like a mid-season premiere 2-parter.
Like best of both worlds.
So
good times.
We're not really used to that in the streaming world anymore. But to me, it's interesting that episodes 5 and 6 on March 25th, they're batching them up. So like you're gonna get both episodes the same day. What do you think the reason for that might be? I mean, we don't really know when the next 3 episodes will come out, if there will be a gap. It's interesting that they haven't told us when episodes 7, 8, 9 will release, but the fact that we're getting 5 and 6 together, does that tell you anything about the show and maybe where the story's headed?
I think it could be pretty epic. Clearly there's something big happening in the middle. Maybe that's when we'll get the hallway fight scene.
So maybe you're thinking like maybe it needs to be a 2-parter episode, so that's why they're dropping it all together, like instead of having us wait for a week.
I don't. It says no info yet. I would imagine that it's going to be 7, 8, and 9. I don't know. Maybe that's just my evenness of it, because it's 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. What are they going to do? 7 and then 8 and 9. I feel like that's a weird way of doing it. So I think the next 3 are just going to be at a weekly basis. But yeah, I'm still skeptical in regards to this. And I mean, I want it to be good, but I'm just like, we'll see. But sorry.
I think, Watcher, the reason why they're doing this is because maybe the story of episodes 5 and 6 might be connected, so that's why you're having it drop. I mean, there's a lot of shows that will still let you wait for a week. And like, for example, Severance these days does that, where every episode ends with some kind of cliffhanger that you then have to wait for a week to find out what's going on next. So it could be just that. But the Watcher also is talking about Jessica Jones being in season 2, which we will get into in a hot sec, because we do have some news to talk about there, potential news to talk about there. But John, did you notice there's like a huge new digital billboard that Marvel is running for Daredevil in like Times Square? You could see that
cool.
it's a wraparound, so you get it on all 3 sides.
Cool.
They're basically promoting the shit out of the show, and obviously for a show that's based in Hell's Kitchen, New York, it's perfect to just advertise it all across New York Times Square. So just wanted to take a look at that quick. But speaking of the Watcher's comment, recently Brad Winderbaum was interviewed by Entertainment Weekly for just a general outlook of Marvel on television, because he's like the head of Marvel Television pretty much. And as the headline says there, Marvel is exploring the returns of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist in the MCU. Charlie Cox also was interviewed recently regarding Daredevil. I mean, he's done a lot of interviews, and one of the things he was asked about was like, what happened when Daredevil got canceled initially on Netflix, and he recalled just, in quote unquote, some feud between Netflix and Disney. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to talk about at the very beginning what Brad Winderbaum said. This is what he had to say in that interview with Entertainment Weekly. So it's here in the paragraph, so stay with me while I get through this. I can't say much, but I'll tell you that it's so exciting to be able to play in that sandbox, the Defender sandbox, that is. Obviously, we don't have the unlimited storytelling resources like the comic book. If you can draw it, you can do it. It's dealing with actors and time and the massive scale of production in order to build a cinematic universe, especially on television. But I can just say that all these variables taken into account, it is certainly something that is creatively extremely exciting that we are very much exploring. And what he's talking about very much exploring is the idea of bringing back Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones, Mike Coulter's Luke Cage, and Finn Jones' Iron Fist, Danny Rand. Something that the studio, like he just said, is very much something that they're exploring. John, are you surprised that they're looking to bring back those other characters other than what we are just getting with Daredevil? Obviously, we had that Luke Cage Easter egg in the first trailer that they put out, so they've already sort of started to lay the groundwork. But do you think the same actors will return to play the characters as well?
You fucking kidding me? What the fuck are they doing now? What's Kristen Ritter? All right, she was in Sonic 3, cool. But Mike Coulter, he's finished Evil. That was like his big thing for a while. Finn Jones. I don't even know if they want to bring him back. They'll probably be like, oh no, we'll make him Asian. We'll make Danny Rand Asian because we're idiots. So, and just replace him. But I think it would make sense. I could see them pulling a like guest star per season kind of thing, like Punisher for season 1, Jessica Jones for season. If this actually does well and people like it, then I could see it doing Punisher season 1, Jessica season 2, Luke Cage season 3, and then that's it. There were no other Defenders because everybody except me hates Iron Fist. Just brush up on your fighting skills. That's all we ask. Okay.
Well, I mean, Charlie Cox also had this to say about, what happened with the cancellation of the Netflix shows. This is when he was being interviewed by GQ magazine. Basically, he talked about the night that he first heard the Netflix series were canceled. And he explained saying, I got a late night call and my boss at Marvel Television at the time said they've pulled all the shows. All 5 of them. There was some, I don't know. It was a conversation about the politics behind it all. Some feud between Netflix and Disney. My bosses at Netflix and Marvel all called and were very nice and very polite, but it was done. So pretty abrupt. I mean, I remember, when we got the news that like Daredevil was canceled and then like all the other shows were going away, that it felt very abrupt. Something must have happened between Disney and Netflix at the time. Ron was saying something to do with Jeff Loeb. Maybe
I always thought it was Ike Perlmutter because there was like the, butting heads between him and Feige, and I remember that because Ike Perlmutter, likes certain people that Disney doesn't agree with. So obviously we'll see how it, I know Jeff Loeb is like allegedly a piece of shit and all that, but the man's made some great comic stories. So, I mean, I would say just like, if you just stick with, I know this is going to sound weird, but like just keep, unless you bring in a completely separate Iron Fist, like not Danny Rand, then fine. But just if you want to get a white dude who can fight, then that's fine, but get a white dude. Like the whole basis of Danny Rand as a character, the reason he works as a character is because of his skin color. I know that's crazy to say, but just like, oh no, we got to have an Asian Iron Fist, we got to have an Asian Danny Rand because apparently only Asian people can study martial arts. But the whole basis of that character was that he became the minority. Like he got crash landed in that fucking, monastery, like the hidden monastery thing and all that. And he realized he didn't have any privilege anymore. He didn't have everything handed. He wasn't like a little white rich kid anymore. And so he didn't have everything on a silver platter. He actually had to work hard. And the reason he became the Iron Fist was not because it was handed to him, because he actually had to work hard for that title and for that power. So, and that's why it works. And, and then there was like the whole stuff with Luke Cage, even though they just shoved them together in a book, like blaxploitation isn't a thing anymore. Martial arts movies aren't a thing anymore. Throw these guys into a book together. But yet it became one of the best like friendships in Marvel Comics. So because of like, they still treated the material seriously enough to make that work. And they learned from one another and they became great friends because of that. So I just feel like if you want to get another actor, fine, because Finn Jones didn't know how to fucking fight. Fine, just stick with a white guy. It's the reason that that Danny Rand as a character works. However, if you want to bring in, because I know the latest Iron Fist in the comics is an Asian guy. I don't know his name, but if you want to bring him in, sure. If you want to get that representation shit in there, that's fine. That's cool. I don't mind that. Just keep it separate. Like have Danny Rand still exist, but just nobody liked him, so we don't care about him anymore, but like bring in a new guy if you want the representation, because that's always cool. Like that's fine. So that's just my piece in regards to that character, because I know, there was the whole debacle with Iron Fist.
Yeah. But I mean, by the way, Manos Time's question about do you think they'll address the fact that Marshall Ali, Ebon Moss-Bachrach were a part of those shows, and now they have different roles in the new MCU? Of course, Marshall Ali isn't actually in the MCU yet. So, but Ebon Moss-Bachrach is. So
I mean, he was an off-screen voice cameo, so that's all we've got.
I don't think. I mean, obviously, what was it? Gemma Chan played,
and Ebon Moss-Bachrach isn't part of this universe. Fantastic Four is in another
different
universe.
timeline. He's from a different
timeline.
Micro.
So he's the micro of that universe. Ben Grimm is micro.
He could come up against himself from the two universes. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it won't be a big problem, considering that they've already kind of said that while this is a continuation, it doesn't necessarily mean everything that happened in those shows is completely canon. I suppose they can always choose to leave some stuff behind. Like Star Trek has been revamping and retconning a lot of stuff in their universe anyway. So I'm sure there's other examples of that. By the way, Jeff Loeb does have a big track record with the comics, so I'm sure he had a big influence. He did have a big influence back in the day on Marvel Television, but right now, the new version of Daredevil, it's all being led by Brad Vanderbaum at Marvel Television, and hopefully we'll get to see Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. We know that Kristen Ritter would love to come back. She was on what's the big podcast from the Lex Luthor from Smallville? I'm forgetting his name.
Michael Rosenbaum.
She was on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast, and she was like, I'd love to come back. It's like the look of Jessica Jones that she created is like she can walk around now everywhere and everybody recognizes her. Oh, you're Jessica Jones, like because you dress like her, even though that's pretty much how she always dresses anyway. But now everybody associates that look with the Jessica Jones character. So Christian Ritter would love to come back. We know the Punisher's already back, John Bernthal in the new season. So hopefully this will lead to more Defenders content in the MCU. But John, we have now moved on to the world of quick hits. So why don't you hit that music and let's get these quick hits on the road, shall we? We've got lots to talk about today. Boop. All right, so let's get into the quick hits. So I mentioned earlier, Wicked now has gotten itself a streaming release date for Peacock. It will be coming to Peacock. I actually got an email about this today from Peacock saying that I can watch Wicked on the streaming service by March 21st, John. So John M. Chu's Wicked coming to Peacock on March 21st, which is a month away. So you still have like 4 weeks to go see it in a movie theater. But John, are you excited to see this at home? Or are you gonna be watching it when it does drop on Peacock?
No.
Or you're not a
Nope.
big fan?
I mean, it's a good movie. I have no desire to rewatch it.
By the way, we got Jalen in the chat. He's late again. It's okay, Jalen. You are here. Enjoy the show. We are in the Quickets now, so let's keep the ball rolling here. The next Quicket that we have to talk about, of course, The Last of Us Season 2, one of the biggest shows, one of the most highly anticipated shows of this year. It has now set an April release date. To be more specific, April 13th is when the show is going to be coming out. John, are you excited for the new season of The Last of Us?
Didn't watch first season. Not gonna watch this shit. Nope.
Fair enough. I mean, look, a lot of people will watch it, and now for those of you guys who are interested,
I feel bad for
April
them.
13th is when you can start watching the new season. Ron saying he'll try to get HBO for this. I recommend it to you, John, or Ron, for many reasons, including The Last of Us, and of course we're gonna have Lanterns, all the DC stuff on there. This actually is something I came across, by the way, right before we were, going live. Will Smith was teasing a Hancock 2 and talking about Zendaya possibly being in the movie. Would you go watch a Hancock sequel, and would you watch it because Zendaya would be a part of it?
I mean, I'm curious. I liked the first one, so I'm curious if this would be better. It's just weird how Will Smith is just doing like all these forgotten, all these sequels to his movies. Like he's doing I Am Legend 2, he's doing Hitch 2, he's doing Hancock 2. It's like,
remember when he used to like be totally anti-sequel? Like now it seems like he's at a point in his career where he wants to revisit all of his
fourth Bad Boy movie,
Glory Day movies. Yeah. Well, to give you context, it says in the article that he was recently making a surprise appearance on XQC's Twitch live stream, and that's when he basically teased a new, fresh concept for Hancock, a sequel to the movie, and saying maybe Zendaya could be approached for the role. So I don't know if even Zendaya knows about this, but at least Will Smith is teasing it. So 2008 to 2020, whenever the movie comes out, it could be as many as 20 years after the original movie that we might get a sequel. So I don't know if Will Smith is, gonna be able to get into superhero shape, although given how good a shape he gets into for those Bad Boys movies, I'm sure if he wanted to be Hancock again, he could do it. So we'll see. But in terms of another business of Hollywood, I should say, news, Banny J's Endemol Shine Australia has now signed a developmental deal for Ninja Warrior creator TBS. Not the American TBS, the Tokyo Broadcasting System. So now that Ninja Warrior concept is going to be expanded to even more shows. John, are you a fan of Ninja Warrior? Would you like to see even more spin-offs?
Nope, don't care.
Okay. All right, moving on. Speaking of Netflix, we were talking about earlier how much money they're going to be spending. And of course, Daredevil was on Netflix, but Stranger Things, one of the biggest hits from the world of Netflix IP. It's been shooting and I think it's almost done. If not, I think they actually did finish filming the last season of Stranger Things recently. So somebody decided to put the current look of the cast and next to how they used to look like for season 1, a bit of a then and now sort of comparison. Are you surprised to see just how much they've grown up? Like they literally went from being
a bitch,
kids.
Right? I mean, it's been what 10 years since the first season. So now they're going to be accurate 80s high schoolers.
Pretty much.
So
like we can do a Breakfast Club and they'll look the part.
Yep.
They're actually doing a Breakfast Club sequel, right? Or a reboot or something.
Of course.
Dude, oh my god, he looks. Yes.
I love the mullet.
That's so 80s. The mullet is so 80s. Holy crap. Dustin, come on now. I have
I will say it's funny how Joe Keery actually looks older in the left pick than he does in the right one.
It's probably the hair, maybe it's the hair, or the angle at which the sun is hitting his face. Of course you have,
but it's just these were all the older, like they pretty much look the same, like.
But dude, David Harbour going from the dad bod to having a 6-pack, like that man has made himself
it's like Chris Pratt
over
in
completely.
Guardians.
Like he's carved out a whole career.
How did you lose all the way? He's like, I just cut out beer. How much beer were you drinking? So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, we have Elite Easy in the chat saying, "You say Stranger Things? I saw future Robins." Cool. Ninja Warriors is like an American Gladiator. I love Ninja Warrior. Fiona loves Ninja Warrior. We should watch some Ninja Warrior. A six-pack. Yes, David Harbour has a six-pack, or at least he did for the last season. So, of course, Winona Ryder coming back. Remember Winona Ryder's career renaissance started with Stranger Things, and now we're like talking 6-7 years in. She was in, what was the big movie she was in last year? The Tim Burton movie. Somebody tell me this. Beetlejuice.
She came back as Lydia Dietz Nuts.
Well, it's basically the career renaissance continues because she's going to be in the final season of the show, of course, and then I'm sure there'll be more beyond that. Maybe Netflix has some ideas for like what other projects they can work on with Winona Ryder. So yeah, excited. Then and now, the Stranger Things cast all grown up. Octavia Spencer. If you guys watched Captain America: Brave New World, you might have noticed that she got a special thanks in the credits of the movie, and the reason for that we now know is because she put in a good word for director Julius Ona with Kevin Feige and Anthony Mackie. So it looks like Octavia Spencer is the one who pretty much helped Julius Ona get the gig. That's pretty cool.
Which is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you ask, in regards to who saw the movie. But you know, yeah.
I don't think it's the direction is necessarily at fault for that movie. It's more just in general that movie went through so much reworking that any movie is going to start to look like a bit of a Frankenstein's monster. And all things considered, it still looks a lot better than most movies that would have supposedly gone through the amount of reshoots and reworks that they did. And I'm just glad that Octavia Spencer did what she did for for Julius Ona, getting him the gig. Fiona's saying no, he drank a 6-pack of beer. Oh yes, he did. Yes, David Harbour was definitely somebody you could see. Oh, he'd be drinking a 6-pack on a Friday night at the first season of Stranger Things, and even the second one. But by the time we got to season 4, the man had a 6-pack. I was like, whoa.
Well, he was in a fucking Russian prison, not being able to do anything. So
yeah,
of course he would be doing a lot of pull-ups. So.
A lot of pull-ups, a lot of crunches. Just working on the core. But yeah. I just remember like there's a scene where like Winona Ryder and David Harbour's characters like meet, but finally, she finds out that the dude is alive and everything, and then like there's a scene where they're changing clothes and like, whoa, she's like, you were working out for the last little while. So I was like,
and meanwhile she has looked 25 the past like 30 years. So
yeah. He did, and then man, as you're saying that he did play Santa Claus, so he did have that Christmas magic. Yeah, maybe that's what accounts for the 6-pack. Speaking of magic, I mean, there wasn't a lot of it in Captain America: Brave New World, but we did just get a new look at the Anthony Mackie suit. This is, of course, with a practical version of the mask. You could tell he's doing his signature Anthony Mackie pose that he does for his photos. I like the suit. This suit looks a lot closer to the one that we used to get with, Chris Evans, but this is the version of the suit when they're flying over the Indian Ocean with trying to take the missiles down and all the rogue fighter jets that they're fighting. So I like it. I mean, it has the A, it's Captain America. I just wanted to kind of bring that up. Now, speaking of Captain America 4, John, we did get a version of Sidewinder, not very comic book accurate, but of course, Giancarlo Esposito, they brought him in when for the reshoots, and his character had a bunch of scenes, not necessarily the best part of the movie, but in your estimation, do you think, given that they have brought in somebody the caliber of Giancarlo Esposito, that Sidewinder will come back for future movies? Because it's not like his character dies in the movie. He's like, I'll see you again, and next time I'll make sure that you don't survive. So do you think he's got a big future in the MCU?
I mean, this dude is one of the fucking greatest fucking actors working today, and I'm sure he doesn't have any morals. He'll do anything for the fucking money. He'll come back. I mean, it's funny because it was like, I remember I saw like an interview with Harrison Ford. Somebody was talking to him. I think it might have been Josh Horowitz, actually. And he was like, so I'm just curious, like when you were doing the motion capture for Red Hulk, do you have like this little voice in your head thinking like, wow, this looks really fucking stupid? He's like, yeah, there is. Well, the voice goes away when I get paid, like it's the check, it's the money that like puts the voice. He's like, it's not magic, it's just commerce. So I'm sure Esposito's
It's
like,
just commerce.
"All right."
Well, Harrison Ford
He's
will
like,
always
bro,
give you
I
the
already gave like the
honest
best
answer,
performance
yeah.
of my career. I don't need to try anymore. I can be in these Garbo fucking Marvel movies and fucking get paid. I'll buy a yacht. I'll buy bitches.
Look,
we're good.
I think he'll be back for future movies. He's got a big future with the MCU. You don't just bring in a character or actor of his caliber to just be a one-off.
What story is this? Like, oh, he praises his co-stars. It's like all of them are very funny and very, very great. Yeah, what are you gonna say? Oh yeah, this guy's a fucking tool. This guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh, she's a fucking cunt. Why I hated working with her. Like, of course he's not gonna fucking say that. Like, yeah, what's it like working with them? Yeah, it's great. What are you gonna say? Oh yeah, these fuckers are assholes. They stunk. Like, come on. Like, what do you expect the answer to be? Like, there, I'd just be like, even if he like had to lie, he'd be like, yeah, it was fine, and then like move on. But he's like, he said something. It's like, yeah, of course, they seem like cool people, but it's like, yeah, no shit. And speaking of David Harbour, here, I don't think he has a six-pack. I think he has his pudginess back, but for Red Guardian.
Well, or maybe he's wearing a bodysuit. You never know. You never know. What I will say though, Sebastian Stan speaking positively about his Thunderbolts co-stars goes beyond just, the man is everywhere. Like, he's been talking good about the Supergirl movie. Obviously, he loves being a part of Marvel. The dude makes 6 movies a year. I'm just interested to see how much the events of Thunderbolts will either catapult his career as a senator in the MCU or completely tank it. Because it seems like that's where we start, but then eventually he ends up in the fight. So I wonder just where he lands at the end of the movie. Is he gonna be a senator or not? So yeah.
So
and then, yes,
says,
Elite Easy
we some kind of Thunderbolts.
It is, but you know what? It's not quite the same thing. But we'll get to see when the movie comes out. By the way, John, there is a Looney Tunes movie coming out this year. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie hitting theaters on March 14th. A new teaser trailer dropped today, and you took a look at it. What did you think about the trailer?
Looks great. I saw this in the theater when I went to go see Paddington, I think. Yeah, it looks fun. Like, and I hope that, like, I hope this is profitable, showing that people want to see the Looney Tunes on the big screen. And maybe Warner Brothers will fucking maybe get their heads out of their asses and fucking shop that shit around, and we'll get Coyote versus Acme. That's just like my hope, at least. But this looks really funny. Just a lot of fun, ridiculous. I love like how it has 2D animation. It looks very Looney Tunes, and I absolutely love it.
It looks fantastic. I'm sure the title is a play on like the day the Earth stood still.
Yeah,
the day the Earth blew up. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. I can't wait for this movie. Give me any and all Looney Tunes all day long. I still kind of wish that we did get the Coyote versus Acme movie, but hey, I'll settle for this one if that's what we're getting, and I am excited for it. March 14th. It's gonna be here in a month. So yeah, I mean, Ron's saying Looney Tunes is that what made Warner Brothers a big movie studio? Well,
yeah.
It was one of the many properties, and I'm glad that they're going back to it. Speaking of big properties, Sean, I found this to be pretty hilarious because the other day we were talking, I think it was yesterday actually, we were talking about Universal releasing the first official photo of Matt Damon as Odysseus in the new Christopher Nolan movie, The Odyssey. But as it turns out, Universal filed a DMCA claim, like a copyright claim, on their own like official movie account for the Odyssey. So like, for some reason, when you went to the Odyssey movie Twitter account, which is again an official account for the movie itself, where they posted, the Matt Damon photo, it got a DMCA takedown. It's so like, it blew my mind that they would do this to themselves.
I will say, this is like the worst thing about Universal. Like, don't get me wrong. I was saying this, Universal's one of the better like movie studios. Like, Warner Brothers is a shit show, Disney's a shit show, Sony's a shit show. Universal's one of the better ones, but this is probably the worst attribute of Universal, is how fucking them and Nintendo are the absolute worst when it comes to copyright on YouTube or on the internet. I mean, Disney's notorious for it too, but like Universal, like I remember like a bunch of my videos were like like there was a claim on it, and I was showing images And I'm like, really?
Mhm.
An image I showed for what, a minute and 2 seconds is like worthy? Not even a minute. It was like 5 seconds. This was like my early stuff too, when I had like no subscribers and each video I got like had like 10 views. So it's like you all almost like in music, Universal Music Group, they are all the worst. So it's just like,
Yeah,
this is
UMG.
just like,
Yep.
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's funny, if nothing else. The fact that, I mean, I actually followed the Odyssey movie account the other day, and then to see this, it's pretty hilarious that they did some damage to themselves. But remember the other day we were kind of wondering, John, since we now know that Matt Damon is playing Odysseus, Tom Holland being the other lead in the movie, we were kind of speculating, is he meant to be playing Odysseus' son Telemachus in the Christopher Nolan film? And I know a lot of us were kind of saying like, yeah, that will be naturally the way to go. But a lot of you guys were like, we're not familiar with Telemachus. Some of you mentioned that you had just read the Spark Notes. So I went ahead and found the Spark Notes for Telemachus' character. So he's just an infant when his father left Troy. Telemachus is still maturing when the Odyssey begins. He's wholly devoted to his mother and to maintaining his father's estate, but he does not know how to protect them from the suitors. After all, it's only been a few years since he first realized what the suitors' intentions were. Going on a little bit later in the story, Telemachus never fully matches his father's talents, at least not by the Odyssey's conclusion. He has a stout heart and an active mind, and sometimes even a bit of a temper, but he never schemes with the same skill or speaks with quite the same fluency as Odysseus. John, what are your thoughts about the character of Telemachus, who, cannot match his father's skill, but is well on his way? So maybe a worthy successor, potentially, maybe not, to Matt Damon's Odysseus?
Could be. I mean, yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna be interested in seeing what all of these A-list actors are gonna be playing, the characters that they're going to be playing. Hopefully we'll find out soon enough. But you guys let us know in the comments down below who you think Tom Holland is playing in the movie. Is he playing Telemachus? And if so, then is he gonna be pretty close to what the book described the character was like? In the meantime, John, we're gonna wrap up Quick Hits with the happy birthday wishes for Benicio del Toro.
Cool.
Of course, the famous actor who has done a lot of things, including playing the Collector in the MCU. He was DJ in the Star Wars The Last Jedi. Tenon Lear Tivan, the Collector in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I wish we got more of him. I liked him in Sicario. Most everything that he does is fantastic. But happy 58th birthday to the one and only Benicio del Toro. What is your favorite movie with Benicio in it?
I would have to look at his filmography. I don't know what my favorite of his would be, but great actor, 100% great actor.
For me, like this first Sicario movie was great. I loved him for the part that he had.
I've heard great
first
things
Guardians
about Sicario,
movie.
but I've never seen it.
So yeah, he does have a Ra's al Ghul vibe. TC24 saying maybe he wouldn't be such a bad Ra's al Ghul. I would love to see him in the new DCU. He was also in The Usual Suspects. So he's done a lot of work.
That's
He's
probably my favorite, if I were to say, because that was a great movie. I mean, I hate Bryan Singer, but great movie.
And he was a villain in License to Kill, the James Bond movie. Was that the one with Timothy Dalton? That's License to Kill.
Yeah, he was like he was one of the he was like the henchman.
One of the henchmen.
But, Robert Davi was
was
the main villain. Yeah.
Well, happy 58th to Benicio del Toro. We hope you have a lot more amazing, exciting performances in store for us in the future. That brings us to the end of Quick Hits, John, so you can hit a pause on the music. And in the meantime, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button. We really do appreciate that. We see a lot of you watching, not as many likes, but we would love for you to hit that like button while you are watching, because we are not done yet. But let us know in the comments down below what you thought about all the different news stories, what you thought about the potential for Tom Holland to play Telemachus in the new Odyssey movie. What did you think about Daredevil releasing episodes 5 and 6 together on March 25th? Does that mean that there's some big spoiler in that show? Are you excited for Daredevil Born Again? Are you excited for the new UFO conspiracy thriller that Joseph Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer are working on? Let us know down below in the comments what you think about all of those stories and so much more. We will be here, each and every day, Monday through Friday, covering the latest from the world of Hollywood. But, that's not the only thing that we cover on the show here. The big thing that we're here to talk about today, of course, as always, is the world of DC. And today we have quite a bit of news to get into from the world of DC. So I'm here with John as always. John, which of the stories that are on the docket today excite you the most for DC?
The idea that Daniel Craig is apparently leaving Sergeant Rock, even though the shit was never fucking confirmed by James Gunn. But we'll see. I don't know. I just got a kick out of that.
Well, the first piece of news we're going to start out with, this comes to us from the Direct via DC Film News. They were talking about how Dean Lorey has just confirmed that Creature Commandos Season 2 is now being fast-tracked by DC Studios. And that's just not hyperbole. Literally, this is what Dean Lorey had to say. We are actively working on breaking the season, so it's definitely moving forward. I mean, it's like they put it on a fast track, and they seem to mean it. So it looks like James Gunn and Peter Safran had given not only just the green light to a second season of Creature Commandos, but they're like full steam ahead, do everything you have to. We need to get this out as soon as possible. Do you think this means we're getting season 2 of Creature Commandos a lot sooner than perhaps most people expected?
So. I mean, I've been saying that. This was a hit, audience critic wise, big hit. It did the numbers. It's like, okay, that's good for the higher ups that only look at the money, the money. So they look at that part, and it for the line in their pockets. They gotta, look at that part, and it makes those money grubbing assholes happy. So, so I think Dean Lorey saying this just confirms my theory that we're probably going to be getting it sometime next year. If I were to take a guess. So we're getting I still think we're getting 4 things next year. We're getting obviously we're getting Supergirl and Lanterns, and then we're getting an animated show with Creature Commandos and Clayface, which is DCU, but it's very far removed from Supergirl. It's going to be more of a horror thing. So a very, very different kind of, but I think it's starting the 2 movies and 2 shows that James Gunn wants to do. So I think that's great.
It would be amazing if we did get that, because again, that's exactly what they've said they were gonna do or aim to do with the DCU, which is 2 movies and 2 TV shows a year. And to get there as quickly as they would have, because 2023 is when they announced their plans, and if they're in 2026 doing that, that's incredible. That's an incredible pace of development to get Supergirl, Clayface, Lanterns, and then Creature Commando Season 2 in the same year. Man, that's going to be a good year for DC. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Now, moving on to the next story. This is not so much a story, John. I felt like this was an inspirational quote I would like to bring to you guys. This is from the DC official account on Threads. They posted a pro tip. It's very simple. Learning any new skill becomes easier if you imagine it's part of your training to become Batman. And I got a nice giggle out of it, but I'm like, you know what? That sounds accurate. I dig it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that is a true idiom, as it were, or you don't believe the hype?
I think me eating an entire tray of Girl Scout cookies in less than 5 minutes, I think that would help me get a skill to become Batman. Maybe, maybe Mad Hatter has him kidnapped and he's at a tea party, and he's like, okay, Batman, you have to eat all of this entire tray in less than 5 minutes. So, maybe that could work. I'm just saying.
By the way, we have Jalen asking in the chat, will there be more episodes in the next season of Creature Commandos? Do we know what the episode count for season 2 will be? I don't know if that was ever.
I don't think so.
Something they told us. We had 7 episodes in the first season. I'd imagine we would get at least that many, if hopefully not more. I mean, if will Clayface be the theatrical horror movie in the superhero universe? Manosam asking. I know there's some horror aspects, but it wasn't a fully horror. Well, I mean, they have mentioned that it's going to be like a B movie actor who, takes whatever substance to become Clayface, similar to what we saw in the animated Batman series Batman the Animated Series. So I have a feeling it's part of the DCU because James Gunn hasn't said anything to the contrary. So I'd imagine that's where we're headed. Shout out to Gunn for keeping DC animation relevant. I hope we get that Blue Beetle series soon too, says TC24. We don't have any official confirmation of that. So we don't yet know if, that Blue Beetle show that Joel Marijuana has been talking about is actually happening. James Gunn hasn't said anything about it. We haven't heard any reports from any official outlets outside of just Sholo talking about it. So it seems to be one of those things that's in the works behind the scenes, but it's not been officially confirmed. So we'll get to see that soon. Hopefully, get a green light. Caleb Underwood suggesting Charlie Day as Mad Hatter. I would buy it. I think Charlie Day has that Mad Hatter energy. I don't know.
I would want to see a more serious Mad Hatter. Like get like Charlie Day as like Kite Man. Like I would love to see that. Like that would be. I would love to see Charlie Day. Get like Charlie Day as like Kite Man or Ambush Bug. Like I think he would do either of those really well. Get like someone a little bit more serious for Mad Hatter. Because I would like to see him as more of like a genuinely creepy threat. I think you could do that very well. Who I would like to see, I don't know. But like get like kind of who's that guy? You know who could be a good Mad Hatter? I think Jeremy Allen White could be a good Mad Hatter. Like I know he's like considered like hot and shit now, but like I think he kind of has that like grittiness he can do. Like I know like the bear, that's the thing, but like I think he could do that very well.
I can see it. Yeah. Also Caleb hoping for more than 20 minutes per episode for Creature Commando season 2. Us too. I think 20 minutes is a good amount of story for a lot of animated shows, but given that a lot of fans wanted to see more, hopefully we'll get like maybe close to 40 minutes, something like that. But yeah, the format, it wasn't surprising to me that was that short, but I wouldn't mind seeing more, or maybe more episodes. And we'll get them batched out. Like you get 2 episodes a week, and then you get maybe an hour's worth of story. So that would be nice. I wouldn't mind seeing that. And yes, Ron, we did talk a lot about Constantine yesterday, and in fact, we're gonna get back into talking about Constantine tomorrow. So be sure to come by tomorrow on the show. And I know you guys always are here. And while you are here, make sure you clobber the like button, like Jose is telling you to do. In the meantime, we're gonna move on to the next story on the list. John, Carl Lumbly. He's, of course, currently in Captain America Brave New World. That's playing in movie theaters as Isaiah Bradley, the Forgotten Captain America. But before he was the Forgotten Captain America, he was Mantis. And then, he went on to play the Martian Manhunter in the DCAU, which is something I didn't even realize for the longest time, that he was the voice of that iconic Martian Manhunter, which is one of my favorite DC characters of all time. And a character who I think has so much potential that they should really, really do a big sci-fi epic, like a John Carter-esque sort of a movie, maybe a little bit darker in terms of the story that it tells, but give it the big blockbuster movie treatment. But speaking of Carl Lumbly, of course, I remember him from Supergirl as well. He played Myrn Jones, the father of John Jones, the Martian Manhunter in the Supergirl show on CW. He eventually has ends up with dementia, and you start to see even though they're Martians, they're also not these perfect human beings. I think he did a great job for the material that he was given to work with. And honestly, I will still say Carl Lumbly's Isaiah Bradley was one of the best parts of that otherwise pretty uneven Captain America 4 Brave New World. So what are your thoughts on Carl Lumbly? Do you think, since he's got this high profile role with Marvel right now, that we will ever get to see him return to the DC? Because he spent a lot of his career working at DC.
Yeah, it's entirely possible, but I think he might be, kind of done with that side of himself. I mean, the DCAU is done. Supergirl's done. The Arrowverse is done. I don't even know what the fuck Mantis is. So, yeah, I could see him continuing for Brave New World, because I know his nephew, I think, becomes part of the Young Avengers. Eli Bradley, I think his name is.
They showed him in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, right? So we were all
and so he's going to be part of the Champions thing. Yeah. So
mad respect, as Elite Easy was saying. Steven Anderson in the chat. Hello, Steven. Saying Alan Ritchson is pretty coy about playing the DC Batman when asked last. I mean, he said he's going to scream it off the rooftops that he wants to play Batman. We have that in our news intro. So maybe something is happening behind the scenes. Maybe. I mean, Alan Ritchson would certainly be a very intimidating Batman. I just don't know if he's the caliber of actor to pull off the role necessarily, because you need somebody with a lot of gravitas. And while Alan Ritchson is improving as an actor, is he there yet in terms of being somebody who can play a great Batman? I don't know, Steven, but it's a good point. It's a good question. If you hear anything about it, anything in the news, we'll be sure to bring that to you guys. TC24 saying, I doubt it would happen, but the Waller show would be a dope way to soft introduce Martian Manhunter. You know what? That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
I don't know
I
how
think
that would work,
DC-24,
but sure, I guess.
because in all the iterations of Martian Manhunter, he's usually like playing some kind of like military or like a police detective or something like that, where he's in a position of authority. So maybe he's working for the government somewhere, and we just find out that he's indeed. I mean, obviously on the surface he's like some human, but we find out that he's indeed John Jones, Martian Manhunter. I wouldn't mind seeing that DC-24. That's a really really good point. Carl Lumbly, on the other hand, I don't know if they're going to bring him back to play the role. It's probably more going to be somebody who's a bit younger, but maybe we'll get to see Carl come back to the DC fold at some point, playing another role of some kind. I wouldn't mind that at all. He's got a rich history with DC. So I just wanted to kind of bring that in because he's having a lot of success recently, but of course he's had a big history with DC. So with that said, John, a big history with DC, you cannot say that without talking about Superman. And recently I saw this online, and I thought they were making a half decent point, so I wanted to kind of bring this up. Let's kind of talk about it as a community. Superman's costume, the David Cornswell Superman costume, of course a lot of fans have taken to working on different things like fan art, as well as custom fan creations like toys and sculpts. And you could see here Ibrahim Mustafa put together a custom action figure of the David Cornswell Superman. You got the classic curl there, you've got the suit, you've got the trunks, the bulges kind of there. The suit looks absolutely incredible in every official artwork and fan creation, according to this account on Threads, but they're saying in live action it doesn't quite hold up. Do you agree with the take from DC Updates that in live action this suit just looks a bit too clunky, or do you think this will just grow on us over time?
I think it looks fine. I understand maybe people were hoping for a little bit more, because a little bit more color, because the behind the scenes seem more colorful, and then the stuff we've seen isn't as colorful. But I don't know. I just want to from what I've seen from the movie, I'm happy. I like it. I think it's good, but we can't really do anything until we really actually fucking get the movie. So I still like it. I think it's just the what people are upset with, and what is on here on this figure is the fact that there's no sculpted abs. People want to see the sculpted
But we don't have.
abs.
I mean, there's actually more of a sculpted abs here in this figure than there are in the actual costume.
That's what I'm
James
saying.
Gunn specifically is against the idea. Right.
He didn't want the sculpted abs.
Yes.
Yeah. He wanted it to look more natural, because it's he wanted to look a little bit more realistic. Well, not realistic, but because as I said, the way that they design superheroes is essentially naked, and then they color in the sculpted body, and that just doesn't look, that you can't get that on screen perfectly, So I think with what he's doing, I think it's interesting, and I think it's different.
Yeah, it's also in line with a lot of the suits that we saw in the Guardians movies, right? It seems to be like James Gunn's MO. He said it that himself, that he doesn't like to see those fake abs and just something that's skin tight spandex. He likes something that's a little more practical, and it seems like that's what he's going for with the Superman suit, similar to what he did with all the Guardian suits. None of those Guardian suits kind of felt like they were spandex necessarily, right? I guess Mantis's costume was a little like that, but that was the closest thing to it. And even then, I don't think I would describe it the same way as what we got with the Man of Steel suit, which very much felt like something that you had to be in the best shape of your life to pull off, which Henry Cavill was. But and it's not like Cornsweat didn't get in the best shape of his life.
Have you seen his fucking yoked ass gym pictures? Goddamn.
Yeah. Yep. So to be honest, I mean, yeah, TC24 saying the first official trailer looked fantastic. The suit in motion is going to look fine. And it's just one of those things where it's because of all the details, like you've been pointing out since we first got a look at the suit, John, it definitely feels less simplified than a lot of the other Superman suits we've got in the past. So hopefully, yeah, we'll continue to see the suit evolve over time. But I mean, when the movie comes out, that's going to be our best assessment of the suit design. Until then, we can just make guesses as to the quality of the suit. And then Steven Anderson saying Gunn said he didn't want something looking like a wet t-shirt. Exactly. There you go. And which is why we don't have the fake muscle padding. Elite Easy saying, I like the Arkham suits, is in tights over padding. Well, they do have some padding in these suits, I'm sure, somewhere, but like, yeah, I mean, David Cornsweet put in the work, so I wouldn't doubt that a lot of what we see in the suit is real. Speaking of real, the Lantern show is real, and Aaron Pierre was on a red carpet recently talking about playing Jon Stewart on Lanterns. He was asked, like, what are you working on now? What are you excited? And he said, this is a show that's very close to my heart, John. And to quote exactly what he said, this is what Aaron Pierre said when he was talking about Lanterns. I'm locked in and focused on a very beautiful project that's very dear to my heart. It's Lanterns. I'll be playing or portraying the beautiful character of Jon Stewart, who I love very dearly. I'm going to do all in my power to bring him to life in a way that resonates with the people and celebrates that character. Again, just an actor who loves the character and has a lot of respect. What are your thoughts on, again, just where Aaron Pierre is with his probably the biggest role of his career, right? And
yeah,
I think they're in production now. We don't actually know for sure, but we had heard that they will be in production by mid-February. So are you excited, getting more excited to see Aaron Pierre as Lantern? We haven't actually got an official look yet, but they did do camera tests, so maybe they'll, put something out there soon.
It's nice that they're getting people who actually give a shit about these characters to play them. I just wish they got people who gave a shit about the characters behind the camera, but we'll see when in regards to, good stuff. So, I think this, I think him being cast, like, at first I was like, I don't know, but the more and more I saw of him, I'm like, you know what? I think this guy's, and the fact that he's gushing about the character so much, I think it's in, like, the character. I don't know about the show. I don't know about Kyle Chandler. I mean, I think he's a good casting, but in regards to this character, in regards to Jon Stewart, I think we're in good hands.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that, just like Dennis Haysbert says, are you in good hands? We're in good hands.
We're in good hands. Steven saying there's a rumor floating on Instagram that actor Peter Capaldi of Doctor Who fame is in line to play
that would be great.
Brainiac.
He was in the Suicide He's better
Squad,
at playing
right?
villains, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, even though I really liked his Doctor, I think he's better at playing villains, and I think that could be a good choice. However, I don't know, because it's like the continuity is wonky, because he was the Thinker in the Suicide Squad, and we don't know if that's like that movie is like 10% canon at this point. So we don't know in regards to that, but like if it's not anymore, then like, yeah, throw him in there. I think that would be great.
What is Elite Easy talking about now? Who's marrying who? I don't know.
Me with Aaron Pierre, I'm like, I just like the fact he likes the character. I'm just saying, and he's a very beautiful man. A very beautiful man. Very
he's
handsome.
also got like green eyes, so like that doesn't hurt at all. Given that he's playing Green Lantern. TC24 saying, I recently watched Rebel Ridge, and while the movie isn't amazing, he sold me on being John. So there you go. I mean, as long as you can tell that he's a good pick and that he's a good fit for Jon Stewart, I think that's all that matters, and we'll see when the show comes out. Manos Time saying, I know that you don't like Damon Lindelof, John, but what do you think about The Leftovers? Damon is the showrunner, and it's one of the highest rated shows on HBO.
Yeah, I watched the first season and I really liked it. I don't know what happened. I watched the first couple episodes of season 2. I thought it was okay, not as good as season 1, but for some reason I just never got back into it. Like, it wasn't like bad or anything, but I mean, I will say at least Damon Lindelof has done like one good thing. So that's good, but I'll give him that. But I again, as I've said, I don't like Damon Lindelof very much, but I have more faith in him than I do Tom King.
That's fair. Ron says your love of Tom King continues to grow. But Steven's saying we're in very good hands with the show. And you know what? I think James Gunn, if you're going to trust James Gunn to make the right decisions, then hopefully the show also has the right people in charge. TC24 saying, while I didn't love the show like you, John, the ending broke me. And then Elite Easy saying, I'm sure you were talking about the what was the show that you guys were just mentioning? The Leftovers. Elite Easy saying Aaron should marry Jon Stewart. He loves him. Oh, okay. You know what? You can't marry a fictional character because they don't exist. But but Aaron Pierre does, as does the Absolute Batman comic book series, which Scott Snyder recently posted about. Absolute Batman #4 is one of the issues that he's the most proud of in his whole career, and he gave a shout out to all the artists who did some stellar work on the art for the cover, and it looks like they're going to be releasing some new covers for a second printing. So if you guys want, you can order that soon, or even today, I think. So Absolute Batman getting even more new variant covers. I particularly, of all the different versions of Absolute Batman we have seen so far, this one
I
to
like
me
this
looks
the
best.
most.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like just the Hulk in a Batman costume. Like he
Yeah.
actually, I'm not a huge, like, personally, I like shorter ears. I hate the ears of like the JLU and that, like, where they're like fucking up here. However, I don't like Ben Affleck's ears where they're like all the way down here. I like somewhere in the middle. I like mediums. These are a little bit too long for me. I think the perfect length was like Michael Keaton Bale. Like that was like good length of ears.
I agree.
Just personal preference.
Yep. I love it too. I mean, the Watcher loves it. He's saying brick house bats. That's pretty much what they're going for, it seems like. Also the suit here, you don't have any abs or anything. It looks like it's mostly like cloth, like some kind of like a winter suit of some kind. By the way, we do have Hugo Millie in the chat now. Hello, Hugo. Saying main thing for me is just seeing the two characters' personality through how they use their rings. So talking about lanterns. Yeah, I think that's gonna matter the most. The characters should have good chemistry, which I hope that's the reason why they cast Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre for the roles, because they work together really well. So we'll see when that happens. Caleb referring to the brick logo. Yeah, well, I mean, the Batman logo still isn't my favorite, but the rest of that suit looks nice. It does feel like the Dark Knight Rises artwork if the Batman was younger, according to Enterprising, which I agree with. The Ron saying I prefer Batman to be slim and fit rather than buff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this version of the Batman has a lot of those qualities. It just depends on which angle you look at it from, seemingly, because as you can see, even between these two artworks, you can see two very different looks at the character, even though maybe the suit is kind of similar. So hopefully we'll get to see more of this, and maybe if it's popular enough, they might adapt it. Like, Marvel has been adapting a lot of recent stories into their movies. Maybe DC will go in and adapt some of, or maybe take inspiration from some of the Absolute comics for their DCU projects, or maybe Elseworld stories. We'll see. But in the meantime, John, we have to switch over, and now we got to get into the main event of the show, which is the Sergeant Rock story. You guys are here for that, I'm sure. The Daniel Craig and Luca Guadagnino were supposedly teaming up to do a Sergeant Rock movie. They've recently collaborated on the Queer movie, which I don't believe got a ton of love at the Oscars or most award shows, but it was a limited release movie. It had, I mean, it did well at the festival circuit, but really beyond that, it didn't make a lot of noise. But of course, Daniel Craig was being eyed by Luca to kind of come back into the fold and work on his next movie, which supposedly is Sergeant Rock, which would be potentially part of the DCU. But now we have news. This is an exclusive from Nexus Point News. I don't know how much I trusted but they're the ones who originally broke the Daniel Craig news in the first place, being involved with the project. We'll see if one of the other bigger outlets like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter talk about it in the future. But as of right now, Nexus Point News is reporting that Daniel Craig is no longer attached to Luca Guadagnino's DC Studios film Sergeant Rock. And if you go into the article itself, they mentioned that the team-up movie with Luca Guadagnino, which was supposed to star Daniel Craig for the DC Studios, has fallen through. Their sources confirmed that Daniel Craig has passed on the role. Guadagnino and Craig were set to join forces after Queer, but that plan is off for now. They haven't been given any specific reason for Craig's decision, but at least as of now, the movie, which was set to be written by Justin Kuritzes, who also wrote the script for Queer, it doesn't have a lead, John. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is something where they never truly had any, official confirmation from James Gunn? So it might have been something that was in development and fell through because they couldn't come up with a story? Or do you think this movie is still being worked on? It's just that now Daniel Craig is no longer part of the project?
I was always doubtful that this was actually a thing because Deadline reported on it, but and that's usually a good news source, but it's just I don't know, just something about it. James Gunn never fucking talked about it. Not even Oh yeah, that's like kind of in the cards. It's like nothing confirmed right now. He never said anything about it. So like I've always been like kind of iffy on like if this is true or not. So I don't know. It just
Yeah.
seems kind of convenient. Like, oh, Luca Guadagnino, he's working with the guy who he worked with on his last two movies. Convenient, and his main star is the guy he worked on his last movie with. Convenient. So I don't know. It's just like if it was like, oh, Luca Guadagnino is directing. I'm like, okay, I could see that maybe, but and like if he had another writer and if he had another star, I would have said I could see that, but the fact that it was like the writer who he wrote Challengers and Queer with is working on with him again, which isn't like totally out of nowhere. Like directors and writers tend to work with each other a lot, but not all the time. And but the fact that like, oh, Daniel Craig is in talks to star, even though he just worked on with him on Queer. I don't know. I just feel like that's very unlikely in my eyes. Maybe I'm being weird, but um I can't see. Oh my god, why? Like Sergeant Rock is supposed to be this huge fucking dude. You know who would be a great Sergeant Rock? I think Ben Affleck would be a great Sergeant Rock. He has the look, and he definitely has the fucking bigness of it, and I think he has the grittiness that would be really good. It's just I don't think he would come back to DC, but I think that would be great. Just Jeremy Allen White, he's too tiny. He's too small. So you know, I don't think that's I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But it's just a rumor. It's not like it's confirmed or anything. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, they were reporting this on Deadline as well. So it is the news has spread across a lot of the bigger outlets. I saw it on the Hollywood Reporter just now as well. The sources did confirm to Deadline that the movie, of course, does not have Daniel Craig attached anymore. As to whether Jeremy Allen White will come in to take over, I don't know if that's being officially reported or if that's just speculation. Jeremy Allen White could do a good job. I would love to see him in a superhero franchise, certainly something like this, which isn't, it's in the DC fold, but it's not like playing a Superman or a Batman necessarily. So, of course, the Sergeant Rock movie Once Upon a Time had Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis attached. So, like you mentioned, I think it was Ron maybe said it. That maybe Sly. Oh no, Elite Easy saying maybe Sly Stallone, maybe in another era, but not. It seems like now maybe now is not the time. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see because Daniel Craig is a talented actor. He's still doing the Knives Out movies. He's got the new one coming out this year, Wake Up Dead Man. This is one of the first looks at that movie, so I'm sure he's going to be busy. The Watcher saying Alan White is perfect. I like it. He favors Craig. Gunn's going for a certain look. So yeah, I mean, he could
I think
be a
he
good
can
fill-in.
act it. It just he just doesn't have the look. I think that like Sergeant Rock is supposed to be a big dude. Like I would want like a big guy to be part of that role. Like a little bit. He's not just an average soldier. He's like slightly more than average, and I would like to show that.
Yeah. I mean, there's also potentially other people that can step in now that they don't have Daniel Craig, and it looks like the movie hasn't all of a sudden gone away. John, do you have any other names in mind potentially? Like you said, Ben Affleck potentially could have been a good one. Or did you say that for Sergeant Rock or maybe a different character? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Sergeant Rock.
Yeah.
I think Thomas Jane could be a really good Sergeant Rock, but I don't think he doesn't like comic book stuff, ironically. So I don't think he would do it. Just like a really like big guy, like
Gerard Butler, maybe? Man of
no, get someone who can fucking act. I don't know. I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head. But yeah, someone who can like just do that kind of role. Maybe John Krasinski could do it. Like he's proven to be a serious action star.
I mean,
James Wolk. I don't know who that is, but
maybe
the
Brandon saying I like the idea of the movie and the timepiece of the movie had me hype, as in like this will be more of a period piece. Yeah. Alexander Skarsgård, enterprising suggesting, and then Ron saying Alan Richardson, unless you meant to say Alan Ritson.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see Alan Richardson as He's playing a soldier now. He would work better as Sergeant Rock than fucking Batman. So I can't see
Elite
Alexander
Easy saying
Skarsgård.
Ernie Hudson. So
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Captain Atom could be Henry Cavill, Watcher says, and Gunn has plans for him. We have him in Creature Commandos, just a smidgen. We saw him just yeah, we did see Captain Atom for a very tiny bit, but I don't know. I don't know if Henry Cavill's coming back to DC anytime soon. He's got so many projects on his calendar that
He's
gonna be tied
fucking
up for
filming
a while.
Voltron right now.
Yeah. And then Ron, by the way, correcting himself, he meant to say Alan Ritchson. Alan Ritchson could work, but I think
I think he would be better
Batman,
as Sergeant Rock.
so,
I don't think he would be a good Batman.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't think he could get both sides. Well, but like gritty soldier, that's what Jack Reacher is. He's doing that pretty okay. I think that would be better.
Yeah. I mean, look, regardless of which direction we go in, at least we now know that Daniel Craig is not involved. He's also one of those actors who's very picky about all the roles that he does. So I'm not surprised that he walked away from this project. I also don't know how far along this conversation ever got. If he was truly signed on to the project, or if they were just like, let's see how the script goes. But the fact that they haven't said this movie is all of a sudden canceled, to me, that means that they're probably gonna look to find somebody else to fill the role.
Josh Brolin could be good. That would be really good. Although apparently he's retired, so who knows?
Supposedly. Is there a video game for James Bond? Oh my god, the graphics look terrible. What the fuck? Okay. Anyway, Sergeant Rock no longer has Daniel Craig attached. They are aiming to shoot this summer, according to Manos Time. I mean, if they are doing that, I wonder when they'll release it. Is that going to be one of the movies that we get in 2027? Are we going to get 3 movies next year in the DCU? That would be very interesting if that's how quickly they're looking to move on this. Ernie Hudson passed away last year, so he can't be in the movie. They're aiming. Okay, so I already read that comment. Wear the Cape saying the DCU movie gets interesting again.
Oh, I thought you meant like Ernie Hudson passed away. I was like, what? I was so confused.
Well, that's what. No, I think isn't that what Antonio just said?
I think he meant he like passed.
The brother from Ghostbusters. He's alive and very jacked. I see. Okay, all right. I'm getting confused. Michael Rooker, Steven Anderson suggesting, or Elite Easy said Timothy Chalamet.
He already was playing. I mean, he was only a voice, but he did already play that Nazi guy in with GI Rope. But like that would be kind of funny though, if it's like DCU canonical and like
I could see David Harbour doing it. Potentially like give him the role.
Oh, David Harbour is Frankenstein.
He is, but I'm like, you could do more than one thing. His live action Frankenstein is probably going to be animated anyway, right? Unless they put him in a ton of costume, like SFX.
Yeah.
Makeup, so.
It's Timothy Chalamet. Can we not get fucking twinks as fucking Sergeant Rock, please? Like, get like buff dudes. Like, I want to see muscular, buff, beefy men. I want to see beefy, shirtless men. I mean, what?
You said it, not me, but I'm like, hey.
I mean,
if that's what you want, then definitely Daniel Craig wasn't going to be the right
I think Josh
fit.
Brolin might be a little bit too old, but like Alan Ritchson, I think would be. Yeah, let's have Alan Ritchson as Sergeant Rock, not fucking Batman. Like, have someone with actual acting ability. Zac Efron could be good. I think he could be good. He definitely has the body for it, especially after Iron Claw. That could be good. Who played his what was it? Holt McCallany. He played his dad in that movie. He might be a little bit too old, but I think he could do it. Maybe
Adam Sandler, if he's not busy with all his Netflix projects, maybe.
Michael who played Lex Luthor in Superman and Lois? Not Michael Chiklis, but was it Michael Chiklis? Hold on. That's the thing.
Michael Chiklis, he hasn't been in a lot of stuff lately. I don't know.
But yeah, I think I think there's a lot of Michael Cudlitz. That was it.
Yeah. By the way, good comment from the Watcher saying there's a lot of factors with Craig, some creatively, some scheduling, very nuanced. I've been told the script is tying in more with Creature Commandos too, so there's that. And then he went on to say, the Watcher did, that maybe Craig wanted to keep it more grounded, and then that's not the direction that they ultimately will end up going in. So maybe that's why Daniel Craig walked away.
No, not
fantastical.
Not Sam Worthington again. He's doing Avatar for the next decade and a half. He's not going to be available. So, and that's the one thing that he has now.
Yeah, very true. What about Michael Credits? Manus Time suggests. Is that what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, Michael Cudlitz. Yeah,
Cudlets.
think he would
Glenn
be good.
Powell potentially. Caleb suggesting. Glenn Powell could do a good job. I mean,
No,
he
he's
probably
too-
wants
he-
to do something more
He's too
higher
smarmy.
profile.
He's too much of a dickhead. I think he would be
Yeah.
better as somebody else. Like out of all of them, I think he would be best as like Green Arrow or Brewster Gold.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, I think he also probably wants to play a higher profile character. So, I wouldn't mind seeing maybe like a Miles Teller, like Manus Time suggests, or maybe even get an Oscar Isaac to play the role. Obviously, they don't quite fit the profile.
But again,
necessarily,
you
but-
could get all of these guys like for easy company. Like they don't have to just be Sergeant Rock. You get like Miles Teller for like Canary. Like, or you get like Josh Brolin for Bulldozer. Like, you can like get any of these guys, and then like you get like the Native American dude for Little Sure Shot, and you can
The Watcher agrees with you.
Yeah. So you can get all those guys. You can get all these different guys for all these different roles, and it would all work. Pretty sure that
Michael
at Ernie
B.
Hudson.
Jordan, man.
Pretty sure there's a
Yeah.
fucking black dude in there somewhere as part of Easy Company. So yeah, they can make it work.
Yeah, maybe Michael B. Jordan could be involved after he works on that stat. I don't think that Static Shock movie is happening. Maybe it was in development a long time ago.
no.
By the way, Easy Company, we should do a fan casting for that. Let's put that on the list.
That would be a very long video.
It would, well, maybe we'll have to break it up. Stephen Lang, maybe. Steven Anderson suggesting. Bradley Cooper, TC24 suggesting. That would be a big reach, but I mean, hey, James Gunn has worked with Bradley Cooper on 3 Guardians movies, so I'm sure he can leverage that relationship. Miles Teller would be a big pick, I think, for a good one for Easy Company, like the Watcher was suggesting, and you were as well. Stephen Lang, I think, is an underrated one. Yeah, a bunch of Jack dudes and Luca Guadagnino, and this could be like the new Predator but hotter. Easy E. There you go. That's exactly the kind of movie we'd be going for. We've got Man of Steel Magnolia in the chat now. Hello, Man of Steel Magnolias. He's suggesting Stephen Lang. A couple of you guys suggesting Stephen Lang. I think he'd be great, but he's also busy with the Avatar universe, so who knows how much time he has on his hands to do anything else. Let's bring the Terminator himself. Let's bring Arnold. Yeah, Arnold was attached to the movie a long time ago, but I don't think he's probably at the right age at this point to take this on. But hey, the news was Daniel Craig is out as the star of Luca Guadagnino's Sergeant Rock, but the movie supposedly is still eyeing a filming date later this year, and of course they do still have a script in the works, so hopefully they'll find a replacement actor. Whether it does become DC's Inglourious Basterds as part of a larger Easy Company film, or if it is another actor that steps in, somebody like an Alan Ritchson, or we'll have to see. Kevin Davis saying Warner Brothers DC is struggling right now. I mean, they're not really struggling. This movie is still pretty early in development, so these kind of changes happen all the time. We were talking about the other day that Tom Hardy left a movie and Benedict Cumberbatch replaced him. So stuff like this happens. It's not the biggest thing ever, or it's not the worst thing ever, but hopefully they'll find somebody else to step into the role, because Luca seems to be very passionate about it and he's got a script in the works. So we'll talk about it when there's any more news that comes along for it. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a fan casting, so be sure to stop by for that. More Constantine talk. Take that as a hint, as it were. And then I'm sure if there's any more DC news, we'll get into it. We'll be also back here on Friday. We'll have a live version of MCU Weekly and DCU Daily. And so, be sure to come back around for that. Until then, John, has been another fantastic show, another, 2-hour marathon, as it were. But we got through so much going on in the world of Hollywood. I'm sure we'll be back with more tomorrow and the day after. Until then, if you haven't already, if you don't see enough likes in there, guys, hit the like button. Hit the notification bell. If you are new, hit the subscribe button, because we are here 5 days a week with DCU Daily, as well as the latest from the world of Hollywood and MCU news, movie reviews. So, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back the day after. Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We'll be reviewing that this Friday as well. So we'll see you next time, John. Another fantastic episode. Keep on watching DC. Keep on watching any movie you guys see. Come back and talk to us about it. Invincible. Let us know when you see the rest of Invincible season 3. We'll review Reacher. So much to talk about. Until next time, guys. We'll see you on another episode of DCU Daily.